In our last conversation, we talked about something different. Today, I want to talk about something that sounds strange at first. Why humans need enemies. Not because enemies are good, not because conflict is good, but because the human mind often works in a way that creates enemies, even when there aren't any. And understanding that can explain a lot about people. Maybe you've noticed this before. A group of friends gets along for years, then suddenly there is drama. A family solves one problem, then starts arguing about something else. A workplace removes one difficult person, then another person becomes the new problem. It's almost as if people keep finding someone to blame, someone to oppose, someone to point at. And that's what this video is about. Why human beings often feel a need for enemies. Not always real enemies. Sometimes just people they can disagree with, dislike, or blame. To understand this, we need to start with something very simple. Human beings need identity. Identity means knowing who we are. It is the answer to a simple question. Who am I? But there is something interesting about how people answer that question. Many times, people don't define themselves by what they are. They define themselves by what they are not. A football fan says, "I'm not like that team." A political supporter says, "I'm not like those people." A group says, "We are not them." Notice what is happening. The enemy becomes part of the identity. The other side helps define the side you belong to. This is why enemies can feel strangely useful. They create a clear line, and the human mind likes clear lines. Imagine a classroom. A new student arrives. Nobody knows each other. Everyone feels uncertain. Then a few students start making fun of one particular person. Suddenly, the group feels more united. Not because they became kinder, not because they became closer, but because now they share a common target. That target creates a feeling of togetherness. This happens in schools, in offices, in communities, even between countries. Psychologists call this social identity. Social identity simply means that part of who we are comes from the groups we belong to. And when people become attached to a group, they often start comparing themselves to other groups. We are good, they are bad. We are right, they are wrong. The more uncertain people feel about themselves, the stronger this tendency can become. Because certainty feels safe, and enemies create certainty. Life is complicated. People are complicated. Problems are complicated. But an enemy makes everything look simple. If something goes wrong, blame them. If life feels difficult, blame them. If the future feels uncertain, blame them. The enemy becomes an explanation for everything. And explanations reduce anxiety. Anxiety is the feeling that comes when we don't know what will happen. The human brain dislikes that feeling. So it looks for simple answers, sometimes too simple. This is why leaders throughout history have often used enemies to unite people. A common enemy creates a common purpose. People stop arguing with each other because their attention moves toward the outside threat. You can see this even in small everyday situations. Imagine two brothers who argue every day. Then someone outside the family insults one of them. Suddenly, the brothers stand together. The argument disappears for a while. The outside threat becomes more important. The enemy creates unity, at least temporarily. But there is a problem. A group that depends on enemies for unity will always need another enemy. Because once the enemy disappears, the old divisions often return. The feeling of togetherness fades, and people start looking for a new target. That's why some people always seem to be fighting someone. If it's not one person, it's another. If it's not one group, it's another. The conflict changes. The pattern stays the same. Now here's the important part. This does not mean every enemy is imaginary. Some people truly want to harm us. Some people are dishonest. Some people are dangerous. Real enemies exist. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the human tendency to create enemies even when they aren't necessary. And that's where many problems begin. A simple framework can help here. Think about enemies in two categories: real threats, and emotional targets. A real threat is someone causing actual harm. They are doing something concrete, something real. An emotional target is different. They become the container for our frustration, anger, fear, or confusion. The problem is that many people confuse the two. For example, imagine someone struggling in life. They feel stuck. They feel disappointed. They feel lost. Instead of looking honestly at the situation, they find someone to blame. A coworker, a neighbor, a group online, anyone. The emotional pain gets attached to a target. Now the target feels like the enemy, but the real problem was somewhere else. The target simply became a place to store the frustration. This is why it's useful to ask one simple question whenever you feel intense anger toward a person or group. Are they a real threat, or have they become an emotional target? That question alone can prevent many unnecessary conflicts, because sometimes the answer is surprising. Sometimes the person isn't causing the pain, they're just carrying the blame for it. And when you notice that, something changes. You become harder to manipulate. You become harder to divide. You become harder to control. Because people who understand their emotions don't need enemies to explain everything. So here's something practical you can do. The next time you feel intense anger toward a person or group, pause and ask yourself what specific harm they have actually caused. Not what they represent, not what they remind you of. What have they actually done? Then ask yourself what feeling appears when you think of them. Fear, frustration, jealousy, disappointment. Whatever it is, just notice it. You don't need to judge it. Just see it clearly. Clarity changes things. Many conflicts survive because nobody looks closely enough at them. The truth is that humans often look for enemies because enemies make life feel simpler. But simple explanations are not always true explanations. And understanding that is a sign of maturity, not weakness. Maturity is being able to see reality, even when reality is less comfortable than the story. You are not someone who needs a villain for every problem. You are someone who can look at things as they are. There's a free resource in the description if you'd like to explore these ideas more deeply. Till then, stay positive. See you in the next one.